welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Naimaka.
And I'm Chiamaka Ohaochi.
Last episode, we brought you the story of the Interactive Forum on Tax Matters held in Lagos between the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria on Thursday, the 21st of February 2019.
Because of time constraints, we couldn't conclude the story, and we did promise to bring you more from that event in a subsequent episode. That promise we are keeping today.
Mr. Paul Gbededo, Council Member of MAN, anchored the question and answer session at the event.
Some organizations complain about multiple taxation. What is your view on this?
Well, this has been my view since my days in Lagos at the state level and hasn't changed at the federal level. There's nothing like multiple taxation in Nigeria. Multiple taxation only exists where two tiers of government are charging the same tax at the same time. Under the Joint Tax Board, we have found out that there are a lot of fraudulent individuals at the local government level, I won't say the state level, but at the local government level especially, that just issue requests for tax payments. We have a set of approved taxes and levies. At the Joint Tax Board meeting, we have said that if anybody issues you an invoice to pay a tax or a levy that is not clearly listed, do not pay. Contact the chairman of your state's Internal Revenue Service, contact any office of the FIRS, whether it's a state or federal tax, contest it, and we'll come and provide service, legal or otherwise, on your behalf. Please help us. Sometimes people pay this money because of the inconvenience. They'll get a small bill of 10, 20, 100,000 and say, I don't want these people's wahala. No, that's not the solution. Give us the wahala. We'll do the wahala for you. Let us know that it's not acceptable, and shortly after that, the Lagos state government now publishes authorized legal taxes and levies for both state and all local governments. Now, not all states are in that position. They have not done that yet. So please, especially if you're in Lagos and you have a bill that does not seem genuine or seems unnecessarily high, contact the chairman of the Board of Internal Revenue or the executive secretary of the JTV, and we'll certainly sort it out.
Where a company has fulfilled its self-assessment obligations by submitting its income tax returns, and there is no tax payable due to no taxable profits in the year, but we discovered that FIRS has a practice of deeming 20% of the company's revenue as profit and subjecting such to tax. In recent times, the FIRS has hinged the issuance of TCCs to the provisional reassessment. According to Section 41 of the Companies Income Tax Act, it is the total profit of a company that is subject to income tax at 30% and not the revenue. So we would like to understand the rationale behind the deemed assessment, and in the particular, denying the company its tax clearance certificate on this basis.
Where adequate documentation is not in place, they used a deemed assessment. The deemed assessment might sometimes seem illogical. A few Judases sometimes will raise an assessment that is not right. And sometimes that assessment is raised to intimidate a taxpayer who may decide to also go along with the Judas and try and resolve the problem. When we did discover this, and like I said before, we looked at our own weaknesses also. The tax controller has to refer any case to the state coordinator for the issuance of a tax clearance. And so that list is sent to the state coordinator. That state coordinator will look at the figures and sign off approving the issuance of the tax clearance certificate. Now, where you apply and you don't get it within 30 days, we have a director of efficiency. Also my office, you can make a complaint directly to my office and we'll look into it. Now, where your documentation is in place, you can apply for a tax return certificate online, and that cuts across human intervention. Once you filed your returns online, you apply online, and you get a response online. But where your documentation is not very adequate, and you go through what I'll call the manual process. But even going through the manual process, if we actually tell our officers they have to issue within 14 days. But let's just assume, not the Nigerian factor, administrative issues. 30 days you don't get your tax return certificate, please file a formal complaint to the state coordinator, director of efficiency, or my office, and certainly it will be resolved.
This question says, can you replicate the waiver granted to the bank holding companies structure in Nigeria? Can we replicate it to other businesses where you have holdcos as well? For instance, it says specifically, allow the obligation to deduct and remit withholding tax to be exercised at the group level as against the operational subsidiaries.
Well, yes, I know this was an issue that had been discussed. Let me get my expert on it. That's Mr. Aino, he's the Coordinating Director of Domestic Tax.
Mr. Aino?
For the banks, it was imposed by the government as an incentive. But when you design your own business model by yourself, not forced on you, then we have no choice but to just apply the current status. So we cannot on our own just say that it will be applicable to everybody. We share your sentiment, but that is the position of government and the law. For the banking, it was given to them specifically, because at that point in time, they were told that you could no longer hold this kind of subsidiaries, you must have a holding structure, and it was imposed on them. But when you design your own business model, and it conflicts with what the law says, we have no choice but just to apply what the law says.
This question is on transfer pricing regulations. The 5% EBITDA rule stipulates that no payment shall exceed 5% of EBITDA with respect to intangibles. Some of us have agreement approved by NOTAP where amount paid is in excess of 5% of EBITDA. On what basis is FIRS assessing companies operating in the free trade zone to company income tax? And what are the obligations of free trade zone companies to FIRS? Number 3, has the executive order by the President on VAT become effective? Number 4, withholding tax is a contentious area and often a source of dispute between taxpayers and FIRS. What is the service doing to remove the contention?
You spoke about the intangibles at 5%
Correct.
And transfer pricing.
Correct.
Worldwide, the OECD and other organizations have estimated that over $250 billion is lost revenue due to transfer pricing. In Africa, as a continent, it's put at $50 billion US dollars. Now, peradventure you're not aware, a lot of organizations are in a situation of what I'll call non-tax jurisdiction areas, meaning that they don't pay tax abroad and they don't pay tax in Nigeria. And an easy way to do that is to increase your expenses in a country that does not really have a very effective tax system and transfer that income wherever you want it transferred and also not pay tax in your resident country. A lot of businesses have got the same ownership, same directorship in Nigeria, for example, and also in London. And so games are being played. Or we're building up the skills in transfer pricing. In fact, one of our directors, Bojum Bala, he's actually the vice chairman in one of these committees of the OECD in that sector. In terms of the audits that we've carried out in Nigeria alone, if I remember right, I think we've got over 200 million from withholding tax, non-payments, not contested. So we try as much as possible, not, I won't say to catch, but to let everybody understand that you cannot cheat this government from tax revenue that is required. The free trade zone. Just by coincidence, we did meet with operators of the free trade zone yesterday in Abuja in my office. We also met with them with the representative of the Minister of Trade and Ministry of Finance, and we have come together to find an acceptable working order in the free trade zone. Now, in most countries, when you're in a free trade zone, you export your products. In Nigeria, we have what we call a hybrid. People operating in the free trade zone would have transactions with people outside the free trade zone. And of course, if you buy items outside the free trade zone, you're expected to pay VAT. They give people contracts outside the free trade zone. They're supposed to deduct withholding tax. Their position was that it was adding value to the economy of Nigeria. Our position is that if you take transactions outside the free trade zone, they become taxable, in which they agreed. They also agreed or recommended that they'll become agents for FIRS to collect those taxes. And our position by law is that we can appoint you as an agent to deduct and remit, but not to be a tax collector. So we don't have any problem with the free trade zone areas, just that whatever is taxable has to be remitted. And FRS did put it forward that if they're going to engage in transactions that are taxable, that maybe we should have a desk where the same location that Customs has a desk and other federal government agencies to monitor the transactions.
There's this point on the federal government executive order on VAT.
Well, if you're talking about an executive order on VAT, the order on VAT that I believe you might be referring to is VAT on the aviation sector.
I think that's the only one.
If that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to point out here, VAT is a consumer tax. So the airline operators were never subject to VAT. It is on the commission earned and also the tickets that you and I buy, we pay VAT. But what had happened was that some of the airline operators did not remit the VAT. They kept it as part of their cash flow. So in asking for a waiver of VAT in the airline industry, it simply means that the cost of the ticket to you and I will be a reduced amount. But that will not improve the cash flow of the airline operators. If they had been remitting, and like I said, the VAT is not part of their cash flow, it's not part of their business. They're only holding it in trust for the federal government.
Did you notice that value-added tax kept cropping up at every turn during the interactive forum?
Yes, I did. Value-added tax can only be ignored by a business operator at his or her own peril. One must point out, however, that in most instances, the business owner only acts as an agent of collection on behalf of government for VAT and withholding tax. Withholding tax can be on payee tax deductions from staff emoluments or from advanced payment of companies' income tax. In such circumstances, the business owner deducts at source and remits into government coffers.
So when you deduct and fail to remit, there is a problem because the money is not yours. It is not part of your running costs. It must be emphasized that VAT is borne by the consumer, while withholding tax is an advance payment of tax by somebody.
Do you provide goods and services? Then you must answer these important questions. Are you registered for VAT? Do you charge VAT on the goods and services you provide? Do you keep records of all your transactions? Do you file VAT returns? Do you remit VAT collected to government coffers? If your answer to any of these questions is no, then you are breaking the law. The law demands total compliance. Therefore, you must register for VAT. You must charge VAT on goods and services. You must file VAT returns. And you must remit all VAT collected on behalf of government within 21 days to the bank nearest to you. To do otherwise is a crime punishable everywhere in the world. VAT is prescribed by the law. Do the right thing. Collect and pay VAT. This message is from the FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome back. The program is Tax Matters, and we are sharing with you the second part of the story of the interactive forum on tax matters held in Lagos between MAN and FIRS.
On withholding tax, this question says where asset is bought in the open market or across the counter, do we need withholding tax?
No, when it's a direct purchase, there's no withholding tax, no. But we shouldn't have a situation whereby you say you bought over the counter a tanker full of diesel.
This one is on tax card. Payment of payee is remitted, but tax card is not provided.
Okay, that's a joint tax board situation, but let me try and respond. You believe taxes are not remitted on your behalf. They will investigate without mentioning who you are, or you can leave your name out, just give the company name and make that complaint. And that applies to all states. Now, in terms of a tax card, under the joint tax board, we're working with having a unified tax across the nation. To date, right now, we have a consolidated tax database for all individuals, and we believe by the end of the first quarter, that will be operational. These tax cards are free of charge, and you'll be able to have, just like in Lagos, your tax history. For those of you who reside here and pay your taxes, once you have a tax ID in Lagos, I'm quite aware, all payments made to Lagos State, you can just print them out at the touch of a button. And that is what we hope will be nationwide before the end of this year.
What plans does FIRS have to ease up business for the MSMEs? That's the micro, small, and medium scale industries or enterprise.
Thank you very much. We do meet with them regularly. We're also part of the team that goes on tours around the country with the Office of the Vice President in terms of the ease of doing business. And what we had done, I believe, we had waived all interest and penalties that were due on unremitted taxes in up to 2016. We waived all penalties and interest. We're also taking under consideration with the Minister of Finance a reduced tax rate for them. But as soon as that is concluded, I believe you'll be notified. Also, the Office of the President and the Vice President directed by policy that we should try and make sure that we patronize local manufacturers and local businessmen to the tune of close to 40% of all expenditure at the federal level. So at the same time that we are patronizing them to help them grow, we're also giving them a tax break in that we're not charging them interest and penalty on all outstanding taxes.
As manufacturers, we deal with NGOs. Do NGOs who are exempted from company income tax, are they also exempted from paying VAT on goods consumed by them?
Well, I said we're having a family meeting. We have a lot of NGOs who claim they're not-for-profit, but engage in transactions that say otherwise. Most NGOs will receive a certificate from FIRS, but because they call themselves an NGO and they have not shown you any documentation, I'm not trying to limit, I'll call it the business of some NGOs, because some NGOs are very useful in society, please just ask them for any document, registration, or any information they have received from FIRS. If they have, then you can claim that they can claim as being safe not to pay any taxes. However, when it comes to VAT, they may not be exempt from VAT depending on what item they're buying.
There is this automatic VAT on VAT returns sheet. What kind of VAT does it stand for? That's what the question here is.
I'm aware of what we call auto VAT. That means that you link into our system, and as the VAT is due, it is remitted directly to the account of the federal government.
That auto VAT, is it for all VAT or?
No, it's just for VAT, for VAT. The service is free of charge. We have actually sent out information to most oil and gas and other related large corporate organizations that once you want that to be installed, we'll install it for you free of charge. And basically, as you make your payments, the VAT portion is deducted and remitted. In short, it will remove to a large degree, if not totally, the audit process of your VAT. Because we know you're already linked to FRS and the money is deducted and remitted. So there's really no need to audit that section. So it's a free system that we provide to all taxpayers. So I'll encourage you to please take advantage of that.
As is true of anything associated with technology, and especially the internet. Sometimes when we are making online filing of monthly returns, there could be blips, and many of our members are complaining about these constraints. What are we doing to improve the platform, please?
Well, thank you very much. Just like you said, there could be blips. It did happen once or twice, but I'm not aware that there's any existing problem now. But if it does happen, please don't be discouraged. Just make a report and we'll look into it as soon as possible. I did mention that we had over 59,000 applications. We're trying to build a system that can take such shocks. But I believe for the online filing, that situation has been corrected, and we're updating our system as fast as possible.
The FIRS was commended by MAN for the smooth running of the tax system in recent times.
Mr. Chairman, while the President was welcoming you, he did say that you have demonstrated remarkable commitment, which is based on the fact that you kept your word. I remember I had the privilege of leading the organized private sector of Nigeria to your office when we had issues. You did not only resolve those issues, but you gave us numbers that worked. It's very common to see public officers give you numbers, but you'll be lucky if you get any response when you call those numbers. So we thank you that we have other numbers and we'll put them in effective use. Mr. Chairman, the answers you gave to the questions have given us comfort. It has given clarity. And we also believe that your officers here are listening and they are in sync with those things you have said. We want to assure you that because we are not going concern in the sector that is not particularly doing well, we shall continue to count on your support, even as we advocate on other issues that may not be related to tax. We have seen you as a credible partner in our search to improve Nigeria. Manufacturing business is not just for us to make profit, but you agree with me, Mr. Chairman, that if Nigeria has to become wealthy, if we have to become a nation that can take care of its people, the manufacturing sector is central. And so everything should be done by every government agency to ensure that this sector is preserved and is made to grow.
We do hope that we have once again been able to bring you up to speed with regards to the workings of the Nigerian tax system. For information and education on taxation, Tax Matters is the program to watch. See you next week on this same station, same day of the week, same time of the day.
Thank you for watching.